Is it harder to become a professional hockey player or a professional golfer?
That is a good question. I can tell you this, that there is, I'm going to say it's probably harder to become a professional. There's so many different levels to both. Like, you can be a pro hockey player in Europe, right? And I mean, I know guys and play with guys, and you know guys who've played some level of pro, um, that maybe you thought would or thought wouldn't, that might make it, that did. But for golf, it's funny. There's some guys that I've played some golf with, or who've grown up here and played some golf, and they'll go out and see them on Instagram, and they played Oakfield and shot 65. Well, actually, I'll give you a story. So Eric Banks, I saw something so Eric Banks is from Truro. I saw something posted by Antigonish Golf Course that in a week he shot 64 on Monday, 66 on like Wednesday, and then later on in the week he shot 63. So he shot 64, 66, 63. That's a par 71 course. And he didn't make a bogey all week. Didn't make a bogey.
What's this guy's name, sir?
Eric Banks. So
Wow.
Banks turned pro, and that guy never made it. Like he might have played on like whatever the like mini tours were, but he didn't make it to the PGA. He didn't make it to the Corn Ferry, which is just below that. Like, that guy's sick, ridiculous golfer, and he didn't make it. You know what I mean? Like, this guy he played 3 rounds in a week, didn't have a bogey, shot umpteen under, and that's not good enough.
So what do you have to like? So what do you have to do in order to become a pro? Do you have to enter a tournament and get a
So
certain?
so guys obviously get their chances through probably through like college golf and stuff like that. Through the states and stuff, and really I guess amateur golf so I've played in a couple of fairly larger amateur tournaments. So if you do well in your provincial tournaments, you qualify for national tournaments, right? So I've played in a couple of Canadian amateurs and Canadian mid-ams. But in those tournaments, it's not necessarily only Canadians too. Like, one year I played in BC, and Corey Connors, who's doing really well, obviously on the PGA Tour right now, he lost in a playoff to a guy, and that guy is now just playing. He still plays on the Corn Ferry Tour, so he still makes some half decent money playing professional golf. But there's guys from Colombia and guys from Mexico and all over the place at the Canadian Am. And if you win the Canadian Am, you win an entry spot into the RBC. There's an RBC tournament that's played in Canada every year. You kind of qualify for the next year or whatever. So
Yeah.
so guys get a first crack at a pro tournament. I mean, you go and you play with Dustin Johnson. You just won the Canadian Amateur one year, and the next year you go and you're teeing it up with last year's winner. So in that guy's case, he was playing with, I think he teed it up with Dustin Johnson, his first pro tournament ever. So here you are, you're playing in the same tournament as me, and then a year later you're playing in the same tournament as Dustin Johnson. Like, it's crazy how many people are kind of in that gap, I guess, between Dustin Johnson and me, and the amount of golfers that are in there that are better than me but not as good as that. It's insane how many people exist all over the world.
I'm trying to compare that to hockey right now to like think of all the guys in the AHL who are just a step away from playing in the NHL.
Yeah.
But it's just because you and I both know the guy on the NHL who's on the third, fourth line. Any guy on the first and second line in the A may be able to play on the third line in the NHL.
Right.
That's a thing. We both know that. So it's an interesting comparison to think, how many guys are from DJ to me and in between in that comparison. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you had a guy, say you had like an 18-year-old go out and score 200 points in the queue, you'd be like, that guy's going to be an unbelievable NHL hockey player. But maybe like,
Lafreniere.
yeah, but maybe it just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that does happen at different levels too. I mean, there's lots of people have to be willing to spend a lot of money on golf to do it too. Like, I just read something. This Mike Visacki guy who Monday qualified a couple weeks ago for a PGA tournament. And I can't remember which one it was. And then he played in this past weekend's Charles Schwab tournament, and he missed the cut. But then Justin Thomas actually cut him a check out of his own pocket to help him still pay because when I say pay, like, he's entering tournaments. He might be paying maybe the entry fees $2,000, and the next tournament's in Dallas, Texas.
I saw this video. We slipped him a check.
Yeah, so he's basically now going to pay for his own travel, his own, like, this stuff isn't just given to him. He doesn't have any sponsors, but he's a guy trying to make it. So he's got to spend his own money or get people to sponsor him somehow. So he might be sponsored by an ice cream shack in his hometown of whatever. Like, so you've got to have people to give you money. So I think that's probably it too, is being good enough that people will give you money to try to chase your dream, or being lucky enough that you've got people who can help you on your side. And I mean that's like with any sport too. I think if you're lucky enough to have a family that can provide lots of things for you, then you probably have a bit of a step up. But if you're that good, people will find you anyways. I mean, that's what kind of happens. I think guys come out of nowhere with golf. There's always stories about kids playing with a set of clubs, and no two clubs are the same, but they were just they were a caddy at a golf course and went out one day and they were ridiculous, and I mean that happens, but I think that's I don't know, man. That's golf. It's hard to make.
I still can't believe what you said about that Banks guy shooting those scores and still not making that's
crazy.
That's,
so I played there last year with a buddy of mine, and I played really well. And I think I ended up shooting 68. So I'd have been 3 under that day I played. And like if anytime I go and play golf, from a regular day, like my goal is to no matter where I play, my goal is to break par. Now some courses that might be realistic, some might not be. My own course might be a couple better than par, whatever, right? Some courses are easier than others, is what it is. But when I show up, that's kind of, I'm playing to the par. So I had a good day and I was 3 under par. But, I made some mistakes, and I might have made like a 50-foot putt, or I might have chipped in, or I might have bounced off a tree and came back into play. But like, I just think for that guy to play 3 rounds in a week and not make a bogey, like, he obviously couldn't have been relying on many bounces. Like, he must have been hitting it that good that he didn't have to rely on any bad breaks happening to him, or if they did, he got lucky a couple times. But it's crazy, to think of a guy who did that in a week, and he's amazing. And I'll admit, he's if me and him play 10 times for money, he's beaten me 10 times out of 10 at any golf course in the province.
Wow.
But that guy's just not making it. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
I'm listening to that, and that's frustrating.
Yeah.
Like that level of good.
Yeah, that level of yeah. And I think he's still a professional. And and he might be playing on, and I know lots of guys have played on, like, I don't know if it's the Mackenzie Tour now or whatever it was, but guys have played on like a Canadian tour, and you win a tournament, you might win. Maybe those guys win $100,000. I don't even know what they actually make, but how many tournaments do you miss the cut and make no money? You make the cut, maybe you make $2,500, but you've just spent $2,500 to enter the tournament, then had to fly to Mississauga and stay in a hotel for 6 days and buy all your own food and rent a car and whatever. So there's a lot of spending that goes on to try to make it. So if guys don't win, they kind of, I don't want to say they fizzle out because it makes them seem like they fail, because they definitely don't fail. I mean, they're ridiculously good at this game, but it's just it's you've got to be fortuitous, but and super good. And like, I guess the level of good, until you actually see like a PGA Tour pro like stand on a driving range and hit 8 6-irons in a row and they land on top of each other, you don't really realize how good those guys are.